all the troublemakers. Okay, Rabbi said, obviously what we're going to be doing here is talking about the Chama, which is the solar eclipse. But since we have a little time, we want to try to get as much as a background information so that it fits. It's not just, I mean, you could talk about the eclipse in 2 minutes, really. But if you really want to understand what it's really all about, how it comes about being, and why the eclipse seems to be so erratic. Like if I was going to ask you on my side, you could answer if you want. Does anybody here know what the cheshbon is for the eclipse? Like, when is the next eclipse going to happen? Anybody know? No?
55 years.
It's a daunting question. I have come out, not anybody, maybe 2 people that have known the answer to that. And once you hear the answer, it's almost embarrassing. But I'm not going to say it up front. We'll say it as we go. Should I say it now? The answer is Likichanu. The answer is that there really is a solar eclipse every single month. Okay? Once every 29 and a half days. Why that is and why it's not, and all the cheshbonos, we're going to get into that. It's really quite interesting, quite fascinating. So that's really a big part of the chunk of this year, of what's trapped every 29 days, and why it does or why it doesn't happen. And also, you know, with the whole shir, the whole mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, and everything that has to do with Rechse Shemayim, starts with a very interesting place in the Torah. Torah says, Baruch says, HaChodesh Zeh Lechem, right? So the Gemara says, Niskasha Moshe b'Moreh Halavona. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't chap what's pshat Moshe Halavona. That's very interesting, you know, because I don't know, it's a little complicated here, but Moshe Rabbeinu is complicated. It's very interesting. So the Gemara says, Zeh, he had to he had to show Mamish exactly what is Moshe Halavona. And so the Teretz is taka, that it's one of those things that while you can learn about it intellectually, but until you see it actually, it doesn't really come together. So and sometimes by seeing it just for like a few moments, everything comes together. So it really is a tremendous help to try to make it visually so we can get a picture of it, and it really all comes together very nicely. And it takes away a lot of the complications. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to start from the beginning. I'm going to assume that nobody knows anything, so if you know nothing, you don't have to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to start from Aleph, and we'll work our way up until we get to the Likichanu. But by the way, I just want to tell you that we're going to build one step at a time. So if something doesn't seem to fit what you learned in high school or later on, you give me a little time because eventually we'll get to it. I want to build slowly, so while we're building it, doesn't seem to work, but maybe at the end of the year, we'll get to it. And the idea of Likichanu is really, really the absolute last part of the shir. So we have to put a lot of pieces in place before we can get to the last nukuda of Likichanu, which is the solar eclipse. Okay, so we're going to start with like simple. If I was to ask you, difficult question, what is this? What are we looking at? What are we looking at? The world, the globe. This is our world. This is where we live, right? This is, we live right over here in New York, Florida, Cuba, Mexico, right? And then, so the world basically turns on its axis. And as it's turning, it gives us 24 hours to turn on its axis, and that's what gives us our day. Now, as we're looking at the globe now, we have to remember one thing very critical, and that is we see the whole world lit up very nicely, but the world does not have any light on its own. We have bulbs occasionally, but light, the whole world being lit up, where does the light come from? It comes from the sun. The sun shines on our earth, and therefore it's lit up. So what comes out because of that? What comes out is that only half the world is always lit up, and Mitzvah Shani, the other half of the world is always going to be dark. Okay, we'll see that in a minute. But what I'm showing over here is, this is a man-made thing, the concept of latitude and longitude lines. Mankind, over history, decided that we need to identify locations on the globe throughout the world where a person is in order to be able to identify where he is. Okay, if you're on land, you say, okay, I'm here. I'm on Maple Street. in Lakewood, New Jersey, or Thomas River, whatever, so we know where you are. But what happens if someone is right over here, right? And his boat is starting to sink. Where are you? He calls up, let's have this. My boat is sinking, and come save me. So the guy asks, okay, where are you? I'm in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. By the way, this is the Pacific Ocean, covers over half the world. So now where on the earth are you? It would be impossible to identify how to get to where I am. So that's why over the years, they came up with the system of dividing the world into 12 sections going, this is latitude, and this is longitude. So these latitude, longitude lines gives us indications. I'm at latitude number this, longitude number this. They have numbers, they have degrees. So all of a sudden the world is it's a more smaller place now. You can identify where you are, and of course, obviously, it comes a tremendous help. But there's really also an added feature, which is going to be negate to our shir, not just teaching geography over here. It's negate to our shir also. Not the latitude lines, but the longitude lines. So like I said, latitude, there's 12, divided into 12 sections, but longitude, there are 24 sections. Those 24 correspond to the clock, 24-hour day. And we'll see a little bit later how it actually comes in very, very important. Okay, so basically this is our world, and like I said, it's all lit up. The world is lit up. So if I was to ask you, I'm going to go back a little bit. If I was to ask you, in this room, where I'm saying that the light for the world comes from the sun. So where in this room would the sun be? What do I mean? Would the sun be on this wall and give me this effect? Would it be on that wall giving me this effect? Would it be on that wall or on this wall? Where would the sun be to give me this effect? Anybody want to give me? Go ahead.
Right here. Okay.
Right there, exactly, right in the back of the room. Because the whole globe is all lit up. So the light is coming from the center back. If we're coming from here, so now I'm going to show you what happens when we take the sun and we move it to the side over there to Mizrach. So what happens is that this side of the world is like lit up, but the other half is dark because the other half is not getting the sunlight from the sun. So only half the world is lit up. And that's the nice, that's what it always is. Half the world is always lit up. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be giving this shear Kilshon B'nai Udam and the way the Torah talks about it. And that is from our perspective here on earth. We're not doing a scientific presentation over here because there's a question, does the sun go around the earth, does the earth go around the sun? There's always that debate in the Hamish Olam, and scientifically it's been proven that everything basically revolves around the sun. But it's not negaya and it's not a steer to anything the Torah says, B'chlal not, because the Torah is always talking about how do we see the sun and the stars as standing here on earth. We're not flying up in the North Star of V looking down on earth, we see it standing on earth. So standing on earth, we don't feel that we're turning. We also see the sun rising every morning in the east or the Mizrach and going overhead and going down a Marav. So we see the sun moving around earth. That's where the Torah talks, in Zakshem, other psikim. So that's the way we're going to give our shir, because that's really what's negay to us. The other way is not really negay to us at all. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to show how it looks like when the sun is revolving around our earth. And you can see how the shadow changes as the sun is moving around. So if I was to stop it right here, so we see the sun's on the Marav side now. The Marav side of the earth is lit up. The Mizrach side is dark. It's experiencing night, right? And here we go. And basically, this is the way a day is, the way we experience it. But there's still one adjustment that I need to make before we can continue into the actual shear. The way we're looking at it now, it seems like, I'm going to move back a drop, it seems like the sun is going around our plane or our horizon that we live on. The truth of the matter is we don't see the sun that way, we see it going above our heads. So I'm going to turn the whole model around. Nothing is changing, just our point of view. So I'm changing it so that it looks like and feels like what we actually experience. I'm going to turn it just a little bit one more time. And now we're looking at the world from the North Pole. This is the North Pole, okay? And I'm going to do one more adjustment over here. Let me see if it's coming up. Okay, here we go. So, and we're standing right over here. So we're standing on top of the world, everybody feels like he's standing on top of the world, no matter where he is. So it doesn't make a difference where he's standing, but that's the way we feel. We're standing on top of the world, and whatever land he's standing on right now is not Negeya at all to us. Maybe later on if we get to it. But for now, this is this. And he's watching how the sun is about to do what? What is the sun about to do? This line here is our horizon line. It's the Oifik. Oifik is the horizon. So now, if the sun was above our heads when he started, and it's now at that point, Ma'ariv, it's about to set at the horizon, right? And as soon as it goes below that, that's going to be Shkia. Shkia Sahama, and he cannot see below this red dotted line. Okay, that's what this red dotted line is. So right now, we can call this, I'll go back and drop Tchilas Shkia, but this is really Shkia when the sun is completely below the horizon. And then another 50, 40, 45, 70, 72 minutes, when the sun is further down, it says a Kachovim, and that's the way a day goes for us. The sun continues going underneath our world. By the way, I just want to go back and drop. If we look over here, just a drop, I'm going to go back. If we look over here, where we're standing, I'm going to go back a little bit more. In our neighborhood where we live, where we stand, it's all lit up because it's still day. The sun didn't set yet. It's starting to set, but where we're standing is still relatively light, late in the afternoon. But as the sun goes down to Shkia, the sun is now below the horizon. Look, where we're standing over here, it's becoming dark. Because that's what's happening, right? So Ben Shmushis is coming in. This gray area is the Ben Shmushis area. And the Chabissel, when the sun is finally down a little bit below the horizon, it's completely night in the section that we live. It's okay, so that's night. And then, of course, the sun goes underneath the earth at night. And now it's about to give us what? Not all together in one time. Sunrise. Good. Whew. Okay, so it's going to have sunrise in a few minutes. So this, right over here, where the sun is about here, it's called Alois Shachar. Okay? That means the Shachar is about to come up, the morning. And then when the sun finally reaches and breaks through the horizon, it's called Netzah. Netzacham. That the sun, the Cham itself, broke through the horizon. That's what Netzacham is. Okay, so then it doesn't stop over there. It continues till it reaches that point. So if I was to ask you for our friend standing over there, what time is it for him? What time is it? 12 o'clock. It says here, right? Okay, excellent. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. What time is it now for him? What's about now? What time is it now?
1.
Who said 1? Good. But it's a trick question. You two should have it's a trick question. It's such an easy question. It's really a trick question. Why is it a trick question? It's a trick question because you should have asked me for whom. What time is it for whom? I'll explain to you why. Because, I've got my pen, I've got my pointer. The sun where it's positioned here is approximately with this line over here. Okay? So if a person's living here, he looks straight up, he sees the sun above his head straight. For him, it's 12 o'clock. For us standing over here, it's like a 1 o'clock, because the sun moved one longitude section. So if we count the longitude sections around and around, like I spoke earlier, we said 24 sections for 24 hours. So it was 12 o'clock, the sun moved to here. Now for us, it's 1 o'clock, but for him, it's 12. But Hayotzi is that wherever the sun goes, if he looks straight down, it's always 12 o'clock. Now, I don't think we're going to get to it, but this is Shtak Negeya, Legaba, the Kabatarach, the international date line. I don't believe we'll get to it tonight. I still want to come back maybe one time. But no, I can't tell you, it's too much for one night. But the sun, wherever the sun is in that position, it's 12 o'clock noontime. And it's just that it moved 1 hour, depending on where we're standing. Okay, so that's just the idea. Maybe we'll need it later on, but for now, let's move on. Arielad, welcome. And here we can continue. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to let this, so this is a day. We're having a list of Shachar, Chatzos Hayom, Shkia, Chatzos Chavim, Chatzos Laylu. Now what I'm doing is I'm turning again the globe one time, and I'm going to show it the same exact thing, Just I took Ma'ariv from there and I put it to the front, Mizrach I put to the back, just so that you see all around the effect that the sun going around our world is. If we look over here, the sun is about to rise. You can see how the horizon is going to light up. Where is it? There we go. So that you can see it's coming in his section, becoming morning. It's a Siyim. And then as the sun goes down, where he's standing, it's dark, and the sun goes around. So anyway, that's basically a day in God the Sun. Okay, excellent. So now we're going to go into the second section. That's Tekufas Hashanah. So before we go back, I just want to say we did Yom. Now we're going to go to Tekufas Hashanah, and then we're going to do Kiddush HaChodesh, and then we're going to do the solar Likachama. That's 4 sections we're doing tonight. Now, why is Tekufas Hashanah important? What is Tekufas Hashanah? Tekufas Hashanah is very important because we're going into Zman Chodesh Aviv, Tekufas Aviv. Pesach must come out in Tekufas Aviv, which is spring season. If not, you have to make which was this year, you have to make other days, 2 others to straighten out the calendar, which we're not going to get to tonight. But the point is that Tekufas Hashanah is really, it means the seasons of the year. There's 4 seasons of the year: summer, fall, winter, and spring. Those are the 4 seasons. The season that's important to us is this season that we're going into now, which is Tekufas Nisan, or spring season. Okay? Chodesh Aviv, the Zman that Yidden came out of Mitzrayim, and Shteit, that the Rabbi Shloim did a tremendous chesed with Klal Yisrael, that he could have taken them out of Mitzrayim at any time of the year, but he dafka chose Chodesh Aviv, which is the most geschmack time of the year. It's not too hot, not too cold. They're going to go out to Mitzrayim. They should be able to go for geschmack. So it's a chesed the Rabbi Shloim did with us, that the whole Zman of Mitzrayim is in Chodesh Nisan, Tekufas Nisan. So there are 4 tekufos. Each tekufa is 3 months, right? 12 months to the year. Each tekufa is 3 months. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to talk about Tekufas Hashanah. Now, in order to understand Tekufas Hashanah, that's why I had to turn the model this way. Okay? Here we go. So I turn the model this way, and we'll stop it in a second. Now, one mistake I think I wanted to do. This line in the middle is a very critical line, even though I didn't emphasize it over here. But this line is a very critical line. Does anybody know what that line is called?
Equator.
It's the equator, right? It's the equator, which means that the globe, the world, basically, in a certain sense, is divided in half. This half is the southern side of the northern hemisphere. This side is the southern hemisphere, and this is the demarcation line. Okay, but we're going to see a little bit later how it's important. But for now, the sun, basically, on a very basic level, when it travels around the Earth, it goes along the equator. Okay? That's not an absolute statement. Like I said, I'm building. But for now, that's where we're at. It goes along the equator, and as we see it over here, basically following the equator as it's making its turn around the Earth. Okay? Okay. So that is the basic Mahalach HaChama throughout the day and at the beginning of Tekufa. Now, here's the big but. It doesn't stay at the equator. It shifts. The sun shifts. Now, if we look at this new line that's coming up, that's the shift that the sun took from the original Mahalach over here. And as we see the sun turning every day, a little more, it's going to shift a little more and a little more every day towards Durham side. Don't ask me why, we'll talk about it soon. But for now, it reaches a certain point in Durham side, and it's going to start coming back. Now it's going to start coming back. It's like a big hand in Shemayim that's pushing the Mahalach HaChama back. Now it's coming back to where it came from, and it's soon going to be going right above the equator. Let's see, I'm probably about now. Yeah, right above the equator, but it doesn't stop there either. It's going to continue going down towards Sofan side. Okay, and the sun is going more and more every day towards Sofan, and this shift is a shift of 3 months. Each shift is 3 months. So it went to dawn 3 months. Now it's going towards southern 3 months, and it's going to go back at some point, probably about now, I think. Yeah. At this point, it's time to go back now, and going to go back to the equator at another 3 months, and that gives you 12 months, which is another way of measuring, by the way. How do we know a year is 365 days? And there are many answers, but one of the ways to answer it is that when the sun comes back to the equator, okay, on the equinox day, that's similar to 365 and a quarter days went by. Because it takes 3 months going this way, 3 months back, 3 months this way, 3 months back, which is 12 months, and that's how we know that a year has passed, one of the ways. Okay, so now, Shala is, why does that happen, and what effect does that have on us living in the world, in our world? Okay, so here we go. So in order to understand that a little bit better, I'm going to enlarge the world. In turn, you realize what I could do? I could make it a little bigger and smaller. That's not, no. I didn't think I could do these things. So enlarging the world. And why? Because we want to show a little detail. Okay, what are the detail I'm looking for? These two bullets. Here's our red friend. He lives right over here. And our green friend lives over here. So we said this is the equator. So this half is the southern hemisphere. So our red friend lives in the southern hemisphere. 2 latitude lines, sections towards Durham. And our green friend also 2 latitude lines away from the equator on the northern hemisphere. So these two guys really are perfectly balanced, or mirror images of each other, being that they're both 2 sections and 2 sections are lined up exactly on the same longitude line. Okay? So these two guys are going to teach us a lot now. Watch what goes on. Let's go. Here we go. So now as we see the sun rising, now let me go back to drop. Let me see this. What are these two guys experiencing now? They're experiencing night, right? It's dark. They're in the middle of sleeping. How much longer is their night still going to be? Well, if we set each longitude section as 1 hour, 24 for 1 hour each section, so he's still going to be sleeping for about close to 2 hours, as is our friend here. Both of us and them, have about another 2 hours for the night, till what? What happens? Till the daylight comes in where we're living, where we are, and now we're both experiencing our day is beginning. So both of our days, both of us are experiencing day and night exactly like each other. Okay, but, and here's the big but. We said that the sun does not go on the equator throughout the year. It shifts. Now it's going to shift first towards dawn, like we saw before. Look what happens when the sun starts shifting. It's not so noticeable yet. It didn't shift that much, just basically one latitude section. But you can see already a little bit that this shift, whatever you want to call it, this line of shadow, day-night line, is starting to shift. By him, it's almost morning. He still has another 3/4 of an hour to an hour for day. But as the sun is going to move more and more towards Durham, let's stop it right, not away from me, let's stop it right over there. It moved over a lot more towards Durham. We look over here, the shift is much stronger now. We have another hour and 3/4 for night. By him, morning is coming in already. Why? Why is that? Because the sun is angled, and when the sun angles, it also angles the shadow, because the shadow is built by the sun. So if the sun is angled, the shadow is going to also tilt, and the day is going to be affected by that. Let's look over here. And here we really see a huge nafkamina, right? Here we're going to experience night right at this point. Our friend in the southern hemisphere has another good 2 hours before his night is going to come in. Okay? And that's going to happen until the day of Tekufas Tevis. So Tekufas Tevis, what does Tekufas Tevis give us? It gives them their longest day. Look how much longer the day is, an hour day. And it gives us the shortest night. Okay? Rasha says, by the Mishkan, Rasha says that when they fill up the menorah, they have to put in oil. They have to put enough oil so that it can burn Laila Ruchos for Tavis. And since the Mishkan and the Smigdash, all of it is in the northern hemisphere, here's Yisrael right about over there. So this whole hemisphere is experiencing its longest night during Tavis. So Mamela, you had to fill up the menorah with enough oil so it could burn a whole night. And that's what Kufas Tavis give us. Our longest night, shortest day. One more thing it does for us, it gives us our coldest season, and it gives them the warmest season. And the answer is, I think, quite obvious. If the sun is angled, going this way angled, the strong rays of heat is going to come here. And this area will be getting just like a very angled reflection from the sun, so the day is not going to heat up so much. Also, the day is longer, there's more time to heat up. So that's what happens to Kufas Tavis. But we said it doesn't stop over there, it's going to go back. And as it goes back, the day-night is going to start equalizing a little bit. Let's see. See, look right over here. You see quite obvious. Not such a big difference between us and them. As it straightens out even more, look at that, it's very, very close. But now when the sun is going to finally reach the equinox, one more time, look how perfect the day is. Perfect day and night. Sun is right in the middle of the equinox. Our day, our night, it's the exact same time. Which means that us in the northern hemisphere and them in the southern hemisphere, they have a day which is exactly divided into two parts. Into 12 hours day, 12-hour night.
Which month is it?
Okay.
Which month?
March 20.
What?
Which month?
March.
Which school?
March and
March 22nd. Okay, and then we have Kufas. Oh, so that brings us where we are now, which is important to us. For Pesach, to Kufas Nisan. Kufas Nisan is when the days and nights are really becoming very much equalized. Now, of course, there are going to be a lot of anomalies between the actual Zman, because of change of time and because of location on Earth. But we're talking about an average now. And we're talking also about people that live on the equinox. That's where they get the most perfect day-night, 12-hour day, 12-hour night. So anyway, when I say it reached Nisan, we see that the world is perfectly balanced. The sun comes mamish down the center of the equator, and the day-night is mamish exactly the same, southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere. But we said it's going to start going towards southern. So now we're going to see it shifting the other way. Here we can see right away that it's shifting now. All of a sudden, our day is becoming longer, his day is shorter, and his night's going to be longer. As it shifts more, the angle gets more extreme. See, here it's really extreme, because we're coming into the day of, here we go, the Kufas Tammuz. But the day of Kufas Tammuz is when the sun is most extreme towards Tzofim, and the most extreme nafkim in the day and night between us and our friend in the southern hemisphere. See over here how strong the nafkim is. It's a good 2.5 hour difference in the morning and 2.5 hour difference at night also. Okay, so here we go. Now as it's coming back towards the middle again now, we're going to finally, by the way, Kufas Tammuz is summer, because we have longer days in the hotter season, right? As the sun comes up towards the middle again, that's going to be Kufas Tishrei. So the sun comes up exactly in the middle of the globe on the equator, side of Kufas Nisan, the day of Kufas Nisan, and side of the day of the Kufas Tishrei. Okay, 2 days there, by the way, 2 days of equinox to stack up. Okay, so that is the Kufas, the idea of Kufas. Now, question is, not a question, it's not a question, but it's a problem. It's not really a problem. It's a problem if anybody looks at the charts that you see in the Gemara articles, charts and other charts, which is correctly done. I'm not knocking it at all, but there's one point that's missing. And here's the point. This critical point. We don't live over here. We live over here. This is Eretz Yisrael. New York is even more a little bit towards the north, towards Sultan. So we don't live up on the equator. Everything that we spoke about till now has to do with someone that lives on the equator. But we live towards the southern side, northern hemisphere. So this is where we live. So in order to make this whole chart work, how we feel it, how we see it, I'm going to angle this globe so that we're on top of the world instead of our friend in the on the equinox. So here we go. So this is us. This is us. Now when we look up, we see a very different picture. All of a sudden, let's go back a drop. Now when our friend on the equinox, on the what's called equator, looks up on the day of the Tekufas, let's say Tekufas Nisan, he sees the sun directly above his head. But we don't. We never see the sun directly above our head because we live towards Tzofim. And therefore, even on the most perfect day, which is that day we looked at, the sun is going to be, for us, towards Dorim. Anybody that's going to learn the Sextus Shoshana, there's a long, long Rashi over there, a half arm long. Rashi talks about this phenomenon that the sun, when it comes up Mizrach, it goes towards Dorim, then comes back to Ma'ariv, then goes towards Tzofim. Very hard to understand unless you understand what's going on over here with this picture. Because you see, the sun is coming up Mizrach, but immediately it's heading towards Dorim, and when it's coming down towards Ma'ariv, it immediately heads towards Tzofim. Hoylech Dorim, Tzofim Tzofim, that pasuk over there. So this is a very critical point, and all that we showed till now happens now on that angle that we experience based on where we live. Okay. So I want to move ahead quickly because this is going to take some time, so I'm going to go real fast forward. So basically, it's the same concept, but being that we live over there, everything looks shifted. Okay, now here we come to the main point. Will have himself. Okay, here we go. Now Kiddush HaChodesh is tied into the solar eclipse. Every solar eclipse will come out on the day of Rosh Chodesh, on the day of the Moed, sorry. You see, this week, today was the Moed day. No, tomorrow's the Moed, Monday was Moed, Tuesday is going to be Rosh Chodesh. So the Moed and the Rosh Chodesh aren't always the same day because of other factors. But basically, the idea is that the solar eclipse is exactly tied in to the Moed HaLevon. Why is that? Okay, so here we go. So this is what we saw till now. We put also the moon into the equation. Now, if we look up, and the moon is dark. So the question, why did I make it dark? The answer is two reasons. First of all, the moon has no light of its own. Same like we said about Earth, has no light of its own. The lit up side of the moon now is facing towards the sun, which is way, way back there. Looks like it's right here, but it's not. It's really way, way back there. And if you go around the back, everybody wants to go to the back, you'll see the sun, the moon is lit up in the lobby. The other side of the moon is lit up. But for our purposes, it's dark. We don't see it because there's no light coming to it. But what this is also telling us is, if I'm standing here and I want to see the sun, the moon is blocking me from seeing the sun. And the day it blocks me from seeing the sun, that's what a solar eclipse means. That it's blocking, the moon is blocking our view of the sun. Question is, what happens? Is this just a one-time thing? So we're going to explain a little bit what the moon does, which is very different than what we saw till now. And most people don't chap the moon, it's very complicated. But hopefully with the visual it'll become much simplified. So okay, here we go. The moon and the sun, this is the beginning of the month. This is day 1. They're nicely lined up above our heads. And we said that's the month of Moiled, and we'll explain what Moiled means soon. And we'll also explain what we had a, whoops, there we go. What happened? Okay, here we go. Let's go back. We almost had a leaky thumb over. Okay. So, I was going to say you a story about it now. Say it in a minute. Okay, so the sun we saw, till now we saw the sun starts at noontime and it's going to go towards Ma'ariv and go below the horizon. And to most people's surprise, that's exactly what the moon also does. Let's watch. Look at the moon. It's going together with the sun. And as the sun circles our Earth, the moon is riding along with it. Okay? But look what's happening. All of a sudden we come back to the same spot as we started out, and they're not lined up anymore. They're not perfectly lined up. What we see is that the moon fell back a little bit. That the sun is going a little quicker and the moon is going a little bit slower. When we started out, beginning of day one, we could not see any of this little crescent over here at all. It was completely blacked out.
It's a lot quicker.
I'm sorry?
It's a lot quicker.
It's a,
The sun is a lot quicker than the moon. Because not only is it's a bigger circle, it's
okay, right, you're
So
right,
it's
scientifically. For our purposes, yeah, good, true. Listen, we'll get to it later. The sun is about 93 million miles away, and the moon is about 80,000 miles away, 800,000 miles. Okay, whatever. We'll get to that soon. But right now, for our purposes, we see how the sun is traveling quick. The truth of the matter is, just going back to what you said, when we look at the sky, the moon and the sun look exactly like to us, size-wise. They're the same size. And when they're traveling on the sky, they look like they're traveling like we see it over here. That's the visual. Okay? And everything is the visual because the whole halacha is based on how we experience it. When we see shkia sachama, that's a shkia. I could say it's not shkia sachama, it's the earth turning towards the sun. It's not relevant. What we feel and what we experience, that's what counts. So we see over here now that the moon fell back a little bit, and we can start seeing a little bit of the new moon, the crescent. And right over here, now, we're going to go back and drop one more time. So the heart is like this. So if Moiled, I'm going to go back to the Moiled moment, which is a critical moment. If the moment of Moiled, nothing can be seen. Can't see anything, because they're right on top of each other, and all the lit up side is on the other side of the moon. So here on Earth, we can't see anything. So the moment of Moiled, it's not seeable. The Gemara says that just shows Mischas Sahara. First 6 hours, you can never see the sun. The moon, sorry. First 6 hours of the new moon, from the Moiled on. You can never see the sun. Now, if we look over here, here's...
Why is the moon blocking the light of the sun when that happens?
I'm sorry?
Why isn't the moon blocking the light of the sun?
Why is the moon...
It's not blocking the light of the sun.
We're going to get to that. Hold that question. Very critical question. Very critical question. Now, when they come to the Eifik, towards the horizon, they're literally still on top of each other, and once they set, 6 hours passed, and we had really no opportunity to see the new moon, because the sun is right on top of the moon, and the moon is completely still, the angle is totally wrong. Let's see what happens. Then the next day, throughout this time, of course, we can't see anything below our horizon. Now, theoretically, we should be able to see the new moon over here, because finally, there's a little space between them, and we see more of a crescent. But since the sun is so bright, and this little sliver of light, it doesn't show up compared to the sun at all. Not. Right? And we look over here, Chatzosiyim is separated quite a bit, but not enough. You can never see the moon here because it's so thin, and it's right in the line of view from the sun. So you can't see this no matter what. Finally, when is the first time Adam can come and say that we saw the new moon? That's the usually end of the first day, beginning of the second day. Again, it's like 6 hours, 24 hours. We're talking about just the basics now. So what's the pshat? What are we looking for? We want to get the sun out of the way, because as long as the sun is up there, right next to the moon, we can't see the new moon. So we have to wait for this moment, right here. Here is where Adam could see the new moon for the first time. Why? Because the sun, even though they're still right next to each other, and if we look at it, it should be blown out, but the sun is below the Eifik, below the horizon. So the Starkheit, the real light, the Lichtigkeit of the sun is really covered by the Eifik, by the horizon. So now the Adam can look and see the new moon for the first time. And that's what Besson did, make Kiran Drishas about how they saw the new moon. Where was it? Was it up and high in the sky, lower in the sky? Was it this way, that way? All those questions. This is what they have to see. And if they don't know what they're seeing, Besson's going to figure out very quickly that they're not seeing correctly. This is the visual that Adam have to see the new moon. Now, but and guess what? They don't have much time, because what's going to happen is, boom, 3/4 of an hour later, the moon also set. Shkias ha-levana. Never heard that word before, right? Shkia is not just Shkia Sacham, Shkia Levana. The Levana goes down, and you can't see the new moon for the rest of the night. So if you missed it, those 3/4 of an hour, something like that, you're going to have a chance to say Aegis for that night. So Bezdin, what they do is they do cheshbon, whatever. Anyway, bottom line is, you have to wait for the next day. Now again, over here, you're not going to see this little bit compared to the sun. You're going to have to wait for the sun to shkia sachama, and finally, the moon is nicely up there. You have a nice little time to see it. The moon is a little bit bigger, a little higher up in the sky, and the month is on its way, so to speak. Now, so we're looking at two things as the days go by. We're going to notice how the crescent of the moon is going to get bigger and bigger as they separate from each other, because the angle is going to cause for us to be able to see the lichtigkeit of the moon, the reflection. And also, we're going to notice something else. I'm going to show you now. As they come up, right over here, when the sun sets, the new moon, it's not the moon anymore, it's a few days old, it's much higher in the sky. And it's going to give us much more time to be Mekadesh Levana. We have about 2.5, 3 hours now that we can be Mekadesh Levana. Okay? Now, some people, Mekadesh is the 4th day, usually wait till the 7th day, whatever it might be. But again, you have more time for Mekadesh Levana. And why do we wait for the 7th day? Because we want to be in the Hanema Oira. We want to be able to have Hana from the lichtigkeit, from the moon. So obviously we want the moon to be here. Look, it's starting to have a little more lichtigkeit on its part, beginning the 7th day, 6th day, right? And again, the moon is bigger, more time up in the sky, and well, I just want to tell you the story. My son, Rabbi, had this cute little story that happened to him a bunch of years ago when we did this project the first time, many years ago. So he was learning in Kotel in BMG, and after that Seder, they come out, and they want to be Mekadesh Levana. It was like last 5th, 6th, 7th day, I don't know what it was. And they go out into the courtyard of the shield after Marav, and they're looking up. must be a cloudy night, just so we can't see the moon. That's the other saying. That must be a cloudy night. So he says, no, it's not a cloudy night. The moon has set already. Shkia halavana. So they all literally turn around and look at him like he's crazy. What kind of word is Shkia halavana? Never heard of it. But that's what happened. Well, actually, that's what happens. If you wait long enough at night, then right over here, the moon is gone for the night. You don't have the rest of the night. So, there you go. Okay. So we're going into the ninth day. And by the 9th day, the moon is going to be literally split in half. And also, when the sun sets, so this is also a nice little thing to know, that when the sun sets, the first 9 days of the month, where are you going to look for the moon? Come out of this medrash, moon, where's the moon? It's always going to be towards Marav side. The first 9 days of the month, always towards Marav side. And from the 9th day on weiter, it's going to start. That's what happens over here when the sun breaks through the horizon. Now already it's towards Mizrach a little bit. And it's also going to be up in the sky for about 7 hours or something like that. So as the month goes on, we have 2 miles. The moon is nice and bright, gives it lichtigkeit, and we have hours, the 8 hours we have now to be Mekadesh Levana. Okay? So this continues on. It's bigger and bigger and bigger as they get further. Look how much they separated already from each other. Because the sun is going continuously quicker and the moon is falling behind. So it's about 3.5 degrees, I think, every day. Now, let's see something very interesting that's going to happen right about now. Look at this. The sun is going to rise and the moon is going to set at the exact same time. Now, I experienced, the truth is, anytime you go out the 15th of the month, 14, 15, and 16, those days of the month, you go out and you go out by Shkia, you look towards Mizrach, you see the moon is rising, and you turn around, you look towards Ma'ariv, and you see the sun is setting. It's an amazing thing to see, because at that point, the moon is completely lit up. And you have a completely lit up moon on one side, a completely lit up sun on the other side. Literally at opposite ends of this column, going down or coming up at the same moment. That's the 14th, 15th, and 16th day of the month. That's what's happening over here. So you see it. Sun is about to go down, and the moon is just coming up on the other side. Okay. There's a Gemara that talks about it, by the way, but we're not going to get into it. It's Rosh Hashanah. Gemara talks about it, but okay. So even the 16th night is also the same mamish, same thing. Okay. So now what happens after the 16th day? The moon is so far behind that the sun is getting closer from the back. And when we look at the moon over here, we see the moon is starting to get dark on one side a little bit. The side that's away from the sun is starting to get dark. And as the sun is going to get closer to the moon from the back, the moon is going to get smaller a little bit every day. It's going to get smaller and smaller every day. Now, if we look over here, let's see over here, 20th night, let's go back and drop. Right over here, the sun goes down. You're not going to have any moon at all for the next 4 hours. You're going to be the skies will be without the moon. So the second half of the month, a big part of the night has no moon at all. As we get deeper and deeper into the month. Okay, here we go. The sun goes down, and you have another almost 6 hours, 5 hours, till the moon finally rises. Finally comes up. Okay, and you see how the sun is starting to catch up to the moon from the other side, from the back of it. And that's why this side of the moon is lit up, the other side is dark. So we're getting into the critical time of the month now, which is really what everything, Hakal Bakal is totally on that, and then we'll give it another day or two until we'll stop it again, just look at it. Okay, so you see most of the night there's no moon. Finally the moon comes up, and a couple hours later the sun comes and knocks him out. Can't see the moon anymore. And look at what's going on. The sun has so much caught up to the moon, it's literally on its back. 29 days passed, and now the moon is as small as it was when it was Moed HaLevana. The difference is, it's on the other side of the moon. Okay, we'll explain to you in a minute. Watch what happens over here. Now the moon and the sun are literally almost caught up. When you see if mamish catching up, where is it going to catch up? It will catch up right over, right there. This is where the moon and the sun are exactly lined up to the center of the earth, center of the moon, center of the sun. That is where the next Moiled is taking place. What does that mean? What's pshat? Because look at the numbers over here. 29 days. If Moiled from one Moiled to the next was 29 full days, right? No extra hours or minutes. Every Moiled would happen in the same place on earth all the time. 29 days exactly would happen every time at the same time of the day. But since there are another 12 hours from 29, so let's say 29 would be up here, another 12 hours brings us around halfway past the earth, and then that would be over here, then 44 minutes, that means almost to the next longitude line, almost, not quite, then and 3.3 seconds. So Kim tells us that every Moiled is going to happen in a different location on Earth. So what's critical to understand is that Moiled is not like Shkia Sachama. Moed HaLevana is not like Shkia Sachama. Every location has its own Shkia, and every morning it's the same. Moiled happens one moment of the month, one place on Earth. Not every location has its Moiled. One place. So we look at Moiled over here. Moiled happened above Alaska. That's where the actual Moiled took place. And originally, the first Moiled happened right over here, where you standing, which is Eretz Yisrael, by the way. So, right? So now, if I know as a Gemad, I was offered the job to be Gabin Abbas Medish, which I really didn't want. And I tried it out, and I flopped badly, because it happened to be the week that they called out the Moiled. And I got up there, I got all nervous, and I got the numbers wrong. But if I would have known then what I know now, I would have been home free, because I would have said very simple. You know when Moiled is, Rabbi Sai? 12 o'clock noon. Really? 12 o'clock? Every Moiled is 12 o'clock noon. You know why? Because here, like we spoke at the beginning, where the sun is, right at that location, it's 12 o'clock noon. And the moon and the sun line up exactly to Earth on the Moiled, and it's always going to be 12 o'clock noon. So what are we calling out in the Smedish? The Moiled, the Zan, the back and forth.
Yeah, it's sort of time.
Oh, exactly. Because you made the cheshbon. It happened here, but in Eretz Yisrael, what time is it now when it happens over here? That's how you know, you can figure out from the Moiled where the actual Moiled took place, if you're interested in knowing. So that's really what's happening with the Moiled. So if I was going to ask you, based on this, where's the next Moiled going to happen? The answer would be, again, 29 days, not Negea, because it would be the same location, 29 days. But we're talking about 12 hours, not half a day. That means halfway around the Earth, about over here. 44 minutes, a couple of seconds, 3.3 seconds. And if we look over here, Taka, this is the Cheshbon Al-Pi Paidish, Chavtes Yez Tachsag. So the next Moiled would be there, the next Moiled would be here, and the next Moiled would be there, and the next Moiled would be here. Bottom line is that every Moiled is happening in a different location throughout the world. So this is what happens every Moiled Halavon. Kazer Eva Kaddish. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu asked Rabbi Shalom. I don't understand what's going on over here with the Moiled. It's all over the place. That's the reason why it's all over the place. Because Tash Tzag is a very complicated cheshbon. Yud Beis Tash Tzag is very, very nuanced, very, very, very didactic. And Chazal say that this numbers we got from the Torah, so it's a Rai, you know, to count the Torah, but that's also different shoots. Now, we started out by saying that Likichama and Moiled Halavona are exactly connected with each other. When Moiled happens, that is when the Likichama happens. Exact same time. Because what's Likichama? Likichama is when we can't see the sun, because the moon is blackened, right lined up with the sun. So, and that's exactly what Moiled is. Moiled is when the moon is lined up exactly with the sun. That's the moment of Moiled. So Moiled and Likichama are exactly synonymous with each other. So someone asked, what?
Why isn't the weekly by Chatzos?
So you asked a good question before, we'll talk about that right now. So now the question is, if that's the case, that Moiled Halavona and Likichama are exactly the same position and time and everything, why doesn't the Likichama happen every month? And the answer is it does happen. And I'll explain in a minute what's pshat. But first, before that, there's another very interesting Neflos Habayra that Bari Shomer over here. And that is like this. Our Earth is 7,090 miles across diameter. The moon is about quarter the size. It's 2,160 miles diameter. Fine. Now, the sun, Mitzad Hasheni, is 109 times larger than Earth. It's 860,000 miles across, as opposed to 7,860. It's 109 times larger than Earth, and it's also 93 million miles away from Earth, compared to the moon, which is only 240,000 miles from Earth. Now, what does this mean? Watch what this means. This is what it means. It means that this little Nakuda here, that's the moon. This little thing here is the Earth. This is the sun. Even more. Be'erach is the sun. Okay? And of course the sun is Cheshbon, I just gave you. So what's the Neflos Habayra over here? The Neflos Habayra is as follows. Now, we're saying the whole time that when the moon and the sun are lined up with each other, the moon blocks my view of the sun when they're perfectly lined up. That means Moiled and the Kichamu. How's that possible? How's it possible? The sun is huge, gigantic. And the moon is a Pitzel Azach. So how could the Pitzel thing block the gigantic sun? The Teretz is that even though the sun is larger, 400 times larger than the moon, but it's also 400 times further away from the moon, from Earth. So sometimes, since it's 400 times larger, but also 400 times further away, that causes for it to look exactly the same size on our sky. Again, it's always our point of view what counts. And when we look in the sky, the moon, a full moon, and the sun look like the same size. It's not. Very simple. It's always like, you have a thumb over here in front of you, put it right in front of your eye, you can block out half the oil here with my little thumb. I put it further away, I block out one person. The point is, the closer it is, the moon is so close to us that it blocks out the gigantic moon, the gigantic sun. So that's what's happening with Likichama. Just for what it's worth, I made a little model over here is the moon. Okay? Here we see that this side of the moon is lit up. That means the sun is here, and the sun is going to come closer and closer. That means the moon is going to get smaller, smaller, and finally the sun is going to go right behind the moon. The moon is against and blacked out because the sun is on the other side. Now the sun comes out continues, goes to the other side, and we see that the other side is going to get lit up as the sun continues to go around the other way. We're almost done, Rabbi Isai. We have one more question to answer. That's the question you asked before, which is a fantastic question. It's a very big question. And the question is like this. If the sun and the moon are exactly lined up every Moiled, why don't we have a Likichamu every month? Why don't we have a Likichamu every month? And here is the answer, Rabbi Isai. And the answer is as follows. That when we say that the sun and the moon are lined up, they're lined up Mizrach Ma'ariv. They're going around all month long, Mizrach Ma'ariv, Mizrach Ma'ariv. So when they come back to the same point, Mizrach Ma'ariv, that's when Moiled is. But there's another component that we have to consider, and that is the Tzofim Dorim. And that's what we're going to show right now. Watch what happens. Tzofim Dorim, they are also nicely lined up where it should be, right? They're going exactly in the center, the sun, the moon, traveling nicely together. But, and here is the big but, the moon has a 5-degree tilt away from the path of the sun. Look what happens over here. Shifting away from the sun, about 5 degrees away from the sun. And it shifts towards Dorim 5 degrees, and during the year, it keeps on shifting now towards Tzofim 5 degrees, and sometimes it's exactly in the middle. So what comes out from this is that even though they're lined up exactly Mizrach Ma'ariv, and therefore we have Moed HaLevana, but because they're not lined up during Tzofim, the moon will not block out the sun on a regular basis. And that regular basis is very, very difficult to cheshbon. It's also very not, Rav Olim does not have a clarity how to figure out when those 5 degrees, when it is, when it's not. It's always within the 5 degrees. Well, we're in the 5 degrees, it is. Dorim Tzofim. So therefore, we find that the cheshbon for an actual solar eclipse or Likichama is very erratic, doesn't have a steady to say, oh, every 6 months, every 3 years, every 5 years. It's like we saw the Moed HaLevana is every month in a different location. The Likichama will also be every time in a different location because it's connected to the moon. And since that's shifting around, this is also shifting, and it's got the extra 5-degree shift back and forth, as we see here. So we're going to have Moiled, but we're not going to have an actual Likichama. Rabbi Isai, Ad Kan, hope you were.